Cheers. Good afternoon. The good news is it's almost over. Thank you for coming back in the room. I half expected to only see one man and his dog, and the dog unfortunately has gone outside. So thank you for all coming. If any of you came here thinking Back to the Future, there's going to be some wild professor type on stage hot wiring a DeLorean, I apologize. I'm not going to do that, and I've got you here under false pretenses. And that will be the only Back to the Future Michael J. Fox reference. What I do want to do, though, is to talk to you about passion, about belief, and about really caring about what you do. Because I have a bit of a cri de coeur, and it was highlighted really by Peter, if you were here on the big data session. And he asked a question of the audience, and I know you're all very shy, but even if it wasn't shyness, one person could recall one advertisement that they'd seen yesterday. And that breaks my heart, because I've been 30 years in the business. And when we used to do advertising, you would have remembered it. And I don't know that big data and being able to measure and count everything is our problem. We don't need to optimize and to make things more effective. I think we've got to start making things better again. So if you'll indulge an old guy talking a little bit about the past, I'm going to tell you what it was like in the old days. And let me give you a parallel to give you some context. Formula One, right? Fantastic, passionate, exciting sport. It's gone through a huge evolution. Technology, data, whether it's front and rear wings, whether it's DRS, whether it's all of the new stuff that they do, right? It's gone through an enormous amount of evolution. It's a machine-driven business where milliseconds make all the difference. I don't think Formula One has lost its passion, but I think maybe the advertising and media business has. And probably the best way I can example this to you is by showing you a short clip.
He was almost a mystic. He was very, very, very intense. And he actually believed that he had a God-given right to win.
I race designed to win. I am very strong in a way of driving. I want always to go faster. I am aggressive, I am determined, and I am dedicated to my profession. I continuously go further and further, learning about my own limitations, my body limitations, my psychological limitations. It's a way of life for me.
Sadly, a very short life, but he was a man who wouldn't stop at anything to try and be the best. And that was the industry that I joined. My advertising industry had a passion and had a heart to it. And some of you might be a little bit cynical and say, yeah, but Formula One, it's become a procession now. It's just a bunch of guys driving around in high-tech kit. If you don't get into pole position, that's it. Game over. I would argue that's not strictly the case. Let me give you a demonstration with another video.
There it is.
Woo! I can't believe that I'm... Oh, jeez.
So you've just got back from the Canadian Grand Prix this morning?
Yeah. I couldn't sleep.
Really?
I slept like an hour or so on the flight. I couldn't get to sleep. I'm just...
Because you get to drive Senna's MP4?
Yeah, I just can't imagine what it's going to be like. I just have this sound in my head of the car roaring and going through Monaco streets when he's one-handed. I'm just going to go one-handed round and just see what it's like around one of the corners. Let's go, let's go. Can I go?
racing back in the mid-80s was, I mean, there's an incredible scene, I think, with Nelson Piquet overtaking Senna on full opposite lock. I mean, very little in the way of safety, very little in the way of aerodynamic grip. Manual gearbox and 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah, you
got about 700.
We have about 700.
Yeah, so that's 500
which
more.
is a lot. I mean,
and with no real downforce.
Yeah, and the cockpit, you could almost punch through it. It's phenomenal, and I can't even contemplate what it would have been like. But so that's why I think you have even more respect for the guys that did it back then.
With respect to Mr. Hamilton, I don't know that his reputation is as a passionate and excited man. Right? He is Mr. Techno, but you can see a young boy excited to drive the best car in the world. Don't you, if you saw the steering wheel as well? 2 buttons, one red one, one green one. Nice and simple. So let me tell you a little bit about the old days. Right? 30 years ago, this January in fact, I started as a young man in the advertising industry. It was a very, very different environment. You're all sitting here with computers. We had that great talk about the multi-screen. I didn't have computers. The fax machine was exciting. We had to photocopy faxes because they came through on heat-sensitive paper. And after 6 months, they disappeared. Great for audits, by the way, if there are any clients involved. All right? We had a different world to live in. We didn't have data. We used to get a thing called the Green Book. The Green Book gave me television data on 4 target audiences, and we got it once a week. That was sophistication. We eventually got a central server to run some green screens for us to book our TV schedules, because before we'd done it on paper. And at the end of the campaign, I would go to the finance department, and I would sit with finance, accounts payable, and we would match the spots. It worked. It was amazing. We sent letters to each other. We didn't do all staff emails, right, with the TGI attached, or the report attached, or the web address attached. I got an email that said, "We've had a new report in. It's really interesting. Here are the 3 most important things you should know. If you want to know more, come and ask me." It was a human business. We were a media department. We were on one floor, the creatives were on another floor, the suits were on the top floor in the nicest offices, the chief exec had the penthouse, and the account planners who actually did all the hard work were generally in the basement. Right? Everything we did was based upon experience, empirical knowledge, as much evidence as we could glean. We sort of asked people what they thought, and they told us, and we used that as the foundation for creating ideas, and we considered everything. And very importantly, this included the client. Mark got all excited in the last panel about that one moment when they all worked together and they got excited and laughed and joked. Dude, that was the agency I joined. We didn't stop laughing. It was fantastic fun because we all had a shared cause. And what happened in the end was we all had this mutual and several decision making. Yeah, I did the media. I was quite good at maths. The pictures boys drew pictures and the wordsmiths wrote brilliant copy. But at the end of the day, we all did it together with the client. And do you know what? And apologies to any clients in the room. Clients, they were pretty brave people. They made decisions, real decisions. They didn't just sort of squeeze and manipulate to get just the smallest possible price out of everybody. They made big decisions. They tried to make a difference. And what happened? We got campaigns. Back to Peter's point, no one could remember anything from yesterday. That wasn't the case in my day. You could quote all of the great advertising campaigns. You know about campaigns that ran for years and years and years. People used to write about in newspapers getting excited about a couple who drank coffee and whether they were going to have a long-term relationship. There was a mum with a family who used to make gravy. And it was exciting because people had real campaign ideas. They had points of difference. And if you look up the 100 most valuable brands in the world, you would see every single one of them had a great marketing and advertising campaign. They all had something that even you as young people could navigate your life through. We had a thread of steel. Integration wasn't something we had to aspire to. You did it. It was a no-brainer. We had a few less channels to work on, but that's not really the relevant point. The point is, we had one single thought process. Now, at the risk of being an old guy getting a bit teary-eyed about the past, the reality was it wasn't perfect, okay? Agencies were greedy. 17.65 on the net was a little excessive. It wasn't always essential to go to the Maldives to make a radio ad with the entire team and the chairman's family, all right? But, you know, sometimes it was a good idea. I was in a meeting once where we presented 2 £1 million creative concepts, one of which included building a tank, a water tank the size of this room, so we could blow it up. It was for a retailer. I'm not entirely certain why that worked. One of the lines on the production quote was £10,000 for the catering truck, for bacon sandwiches and coffee. £10,000, the client signed it off, right? So there was a lot of issues. Equally, we weren't really accountable. We couldn't measure stuff. I think actually that empowered us. It made us braver, it made us more courageous, it made us more decisive. But at the end of the day, it wasn't Sarbanes-Oxley. It wasn't compliant, it wasn't New World. And let's be honest, if it went wrong, it just went properly wrong. Yeah, there was no, we'll change that copy, we'll come back tomorrow, we'll put some new stuff in. This was, you put it out there, if it went wrong, and you had to live by your decision, which made it harder, but made it more fun and more enjoyable. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. We've got huge amounts of data. It really does. It breaks my heart that we can measure absolutely everything. Because do you know what? You didn't need to measure it. That wasn't the question. Right? How many Facebook likes have we got? Isn't the question. It's not the question that anybody ever wakes up in the morning going, oh, I know what I've got to ask tomorrow. What clients wake up about is, how many baked beans did I sell? How many cars drove out of the forecourt? Right? That's the question that they want the answer to. That's why they engage professionals who cost still quite a lot of money and spend an awful lot of money to make things happen, to have a communication with a customer, to make people do things differently and to create a brand relationship. And unfortunately nowadays we've all gone into specialisms, easy to say, and silos. Right? Everybody works independently. Mark got excited that they sat in a room and brainstormed. That should not be exciting. That should be today's everyday, right? But the emails, you know, I didn't get briefed till 2 hours before the campaign was due to go on. I can see some of my colleagues are very familiar with those emails, right? Because it was forgotten. When I was in the industry in the first instance, I didn't get told once the TV campaign had been made. We were in part of the decision to make a TV commercial because that was the right media choice. It wasn't given to us. It wasn't given to us at the last minute. We used to have advanced booking deadlines in the UK. 6 weeks, if you didn't book, you didn't get in. Right? So you had to make decisions. You had to be determined about things. Right? It was a better world because of that, but not quite as attractive sometimes. And what you've got now is excess supply. The TV companies could tell us we had to book in advance because there was only, advertising started at 12:26. Program called Sons and Daughters, 18 housewife ratings on Thames TV, Network Universe for Thames TV, 1.78 million housewives, right? It was sold at the top rate that you could buy an F5 fixed, £1,575. Right? Anyone who's really quick on their calculator, £2.86 cost per thousand. Yes, back of the net. Right? That was it, you were safe. Right? That doesn't happen now. You've got so much to choose from and so many opportunities to miss as a result of that. And I think what it's created, and I'm going to call on the clients here to smile at me if they think that any of this is true, we've created a culture of constant change. You know, the phone calls that come through at 3 o'clock in the morning, oh, we only got 6 likes on our Facebook page, we need to change it. Really? Let's give it a little bit of time, it's only been up there for a couple of hours. The blame culture, well, it's not my fault, I did my job. Right? It's endemic. The short-termism, the indecision, the panic because we can measure it. And no one remembered a single advertisement from a day ago. A lot of you smiled at some of the ads you might not have only seen through your own research rather than seeing live. Right? Nike didn't get involved in just do it and have always stuck with just do it because it was going to be something they changed. It's their core business. It's their core thought process. Work, rest, play. It's a core thought process that still endures even now because it was well thought out and well considered. True, got more accountability. Take the A off the front, more accountability. Right? I can put it on a spreadsheet, got loads of spreadsheets. Apple Mac can now run spreadsheets, they can run Excel. Woohoo. What an advance that has been. Right? We're getting more value. True, if you think price means value, we get better prices. Right? Discounts, no problems, give you loads of discounts. Right? But are you buying the right thing? Maybe not, because maybe we're not asking the right question. The good news is, though, from client's point of view, it doesn't have to keep us on our toes. When a client reviews the business on a burst-by-burst basis, a media-by-media basis, when we spend all that resource constantly repitching, constantly going back to the media owners and asking for something different, it's a lot of waste of time. It's a lot of waste of energy when all of that resource could be put into making something dynamic. And I think what it's ended up doing is create very low brand value. Congratulations to one of my colleagues who managed to get Noel Edmonds into a presentation legitimately for the first time in his 25 years or so in the business. You can't tell the difference. Raise my voice, sorry, apologies. Eyes in the back of the head as well. So you've got low brand values, right? There's no differentiation. You could have one thing or another. Brand value, the company I work for is run by a guy called Sir Martin Sorrell. When he first bought J. Walter Thompson Company, he left the Saatchi & Saatchi business, decided he was going to go and take those guys on and be better. He bought J. Walter Thompson. Well, he didn't have any money, but he bought JWT. And the first thing he did was he put the logo on the balance sheet for £500,000 because it was a brand. It's an advertising agency. It's 150 years old this year. So it's quite a good advertising agency, clearly. If we don't change now, I don't think there will be another 150-year-old agency in the future. I don't think people will have 30-year careers in our business because short-termism doesn't work. It only works in the short term. And unfortunately, if you're not consistent, no one's got anything to navigate by. No one's got anything iconic. No one's got anything that they can get passionate about. So my challenge to the panel who are going to talk about the details later after me is how do we come up with a model, whatever the commercial terms are, right? However we structure ourselves, whatever we call our departments, how we spend time together or not, how we send emails, how we create websites that allow us to integrate and project manage. My challenge is how do we get the passion back into our business so that we actually forcefully go and make things that really make a difference. Because that's an advertising agency I'd quite like to work at and run. If you don't believe me, let me show you one more piece of video. So I think I haven't got the wind up yet, just to show make the point for me.
Let's start at the beginning. I'm a racing driver. I always was, always will be. Ever since my dad restored an aging Austin 7 Ulster and I entered my first hill climb competition, I never stopped. At age 22, I won my first Grand Prix and became the youngest ever winner up to that time. I would push the car to its limits over and over and over. On the track, in the paddock, in the mechanic's shop. I'd modify it, improve it, and master it till I dropped on the floor with exhaustion. In 1963, I founded my own motor racing team. Now, let me tell you just one story so you get what it was about. One day, as I was testing a car, I noticed that the fuel filler access door was flapping up and down. The thinking at the time was that it should have been pressed more firmly in place as the speed of the car increased. But instead it bounced more vigorously. At first I was angry that the door hadn't been properly closed. I've always hated sloppy work. But an idea was soon born out of my frustration. Stopping in the pits, I jumped from the car, ran to a mechanic's toolbox, grabbed a pair of shears and started cutting the bodywork away behind the radiator. You should have seen the faces of the mechanics. Immediately, I began turning lap times faster than before. From that incident came the nostrils, a key design feature that is still used today. On the 2nd of June, 1970, my Can-Am car crashed on the Levant Street just before Woodcote Corner at Goodwood Circuit in England. I was testing my new M8D when the rear bodywork came adrift at speed. I died, age 32. But what might be seen as a tragic end was in fact a beginning. As I always said, to do something well is so worthwhile that to die trying to do it better cannot be foolhardy. Indeed, life is not measured in years alone, but in achievement. That'd make a good epitaph, wouldn't it? So, on that beautiful summer day, on that racetrack, I did more than leave a name and a memory. Hopefully, I became an inspiration.
It's only advertising, no one needs to die. But maybe if we can get a little bit of the passion that McLaren, I think, have still got in their business. Thank you. I think I've overrun, so I'll probably have to avoid questions, but I'll be outside if anyone has anything burning to say to me. Thanks very much.